What's up, party people? New episode of Pasty-T Garage. Today we're working on the 1997 Mazda Miata. What we're going to be doing is a valve cover gasket replacement. You might have seen some other videos, and I'll go ahead and link those now. I replaced the valve cover gaskets on the Skyline, and I replaced one on the old Focus wagon that I had. Today we're going to be doing on the Miata. You can kind of see a little bit of a residual oil. Might be able to see all along the line where the valve cover meets the cylinder head. So we're going to go ahead and be replacing that today. Now, I got a new one from Flyin Miata. They had it was basically the same price as buying it from like O'Reilly's or Advanced Auto or anything like that. So I just went ahead and purchased from them because I was already getting another part. You might have seen the video. The fuel door little gas cap holder. Really cool. Check it out. Yeah, so today we're going to be doing the valve cover gasket. So the thing about this is a turbo vehicle, so it might be a little bit different than your application, but it should follow very similar little steps. You're going to want to remove the ignition wires for your spark plugs. You're going to want to remove any hoses that connect to the cover. You can see I have a couple bolts that hold them on there, and then we have all these 10mm head bolts that go around the cover. On the back side, you can see there's a bracket here that is just kind of for lifting the engine. Pin around there. That's where you can attach a part to lift the engine. A couple pieces back here that we might need to remove. Probably a couple pieces we have to add some silicone to, but most of it is just, you know, some brackets and the bolts going to it. So it shouldn't be that big of an issue. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and do that today. So let's get started. All right, so first thing we're gonna do is have our handy dandy metal tray. We're gonna be putting all of our bolts into as we remove them. We're gonna take the brackets loose from the cover. A lot of silicone in there. Somebody went a little ham. Yeah, there's a lot of silicone I'm pulling out of here. Might leave that one connected to the hose. This is actually an 8mm, so I need an 8mm for that. But loosen up all the rest of them. You can hear that popping. The previous owner must have over-tightened this, because the spec is only about, I don't know, 10 foot-pounds at the most, which is not very much. Okay, I need a flathead for that as well. Got an 8mm right there and our flathead. Okay, now that all those are loose with the bigger ratchet, we can use the smaller ratchet to get them all finally loose. So one thing I did was I took a picture of how these line up on the coil pack, so we can put it back. I'm going to pull them all loose. That way I don't put them back in correctly and have a misfire concern. So what I'm actually going to do is remove them all the way. Not 100% necessary, but it'll just make life easier. So we're going to move the rest of the bolts. Move these from the covers itself. Route the hose clamp up that hose. Pull against that bar. I'm going to push this hose out of the way. This one as well. Since this one's right at the end, I'm going to go ahead and tighten it down. Yes, I don't lose it. Get that hose out of the way. Minus one. The good thing is these are all the same length, with the exception of the one up here, which is just for that hose. So you don't have to worry about forgetting where they went. Alright. Those are all loose and out. I'll put them in my magnetic tray. Alright, as you can see, it just comes right up. Now, we have this bracket that looks like it holds the coil pack to it. And as I'm lifting it, I can tell that that is the case. So there's one bolt here and one bolt here. So we're going to remove those. I'm not sure what size it is. It feels bigger. We're going to grab a 13 wrench. See if that's the ticket. Yep. Might have been easier for me to do this while the cover was bolted in, but it didn't take that much effort to loosen it, so not that bad. Do it from the other side. This one looks like I cannot get the so that one I'm gonna have to use a socket. Not a problem. Comes loose pretty easily. Okay. Once we have that bracket loose from the coil pack, I'm going to go ahead and lean the coil pack up against the bulkhead. And our valve cover should be completely free. And to test that theory, almost. Okay. Now, in previous videos, what I've shown y'all is we basically remove this gasket from the cover assembly itself. You can see where somebody's tried to add silicone to help prevent leaking. Didn't exactly do its job. Looks like there's a little bit of oil splashage that was getting up on the timing belt itself. Okay, one cool thing about this engine that some other engines may not have is that you can look at your cam gears and your timing belt with removing the valve cover. So you can flip that around, you can check for, you know, any sort of check to see if your timing's out, check to see if your belt is cracked. But as you can see, there's a lot of silicone along the end, so we're gonna have to clean all that up. Basically, we're gonna use a combination of razor blade, some light brushes, toothbrush, or a maybe a very light brass brush, cloth, brake clean, that kind of stuff. And we're gonna get all that orange off, because basically the only parts that we want to put any sort of silicone is kind of where this hump is, because you can see that's a cap, and then there are caps here for these very beginning of the cam that we're going to want to put a little bit of silicone on that. Not a lot, this is way too much. So we're going to need to clean all this up and get a new cover on, and yeah, go ahead and send it. Alright, so pretty much done with cleaning up all the surface with the valve cover. Last thing I want to do is just spray it with a little bit of brake clean, wipe it off again with a probably clean rag, and then we should be ready to go back together. So we have 6 spots that we want to go ahead and put a little bit of silicone on. You can see right here where this cover touches the head. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then back here 5, 6. We're just going to put a little bit of silicone where it meets. Not a whole lot. Definitely not as much as the previous owner, because that was excessive. And by silicone, what I mean is something like this: ultra black gasket maker, oil resistant silicone. We don't need very much. Like I said, I'm gonna go ahead and spray it down with some brake clean, get a little bit cleaned up. It took a while. I used a razor blade, I used a Scotch-Brite pad, and when it got really, really thick, I used a little bit of a screwdriver to try to scrape away the excessive gasket maker that he put on before that. So, not too much. We just want to kind of get some of the excess oil off. We'll let that dry, because a little bit did go in the spark plug holes, and spark plugs are installed, but brake clean dries pretty quickly. So we're just going to let that dry. Still need to work on the valve cover itself, but that shouldn't take nearly as long. So you can see the valve cover still needs to be replaced, or the gasket on it. So we just lift this out. It's not nearly as brittle. If y'all don't remember the Skyline video, that was brittle. So that came off a lot better. So basically all I'm going to do is spray brake clean in the channels, make sure any excessive silicone's knocked out, any oil's knocked out. Chase it if I need to with a rag, a brush, but just get it clean, and then we're going to reinstall it. We're just going to clean a little bit. Just shoot brake clean in that channel. Dump out the excess oil. Probably shouldn't have done it so close to the car. Let that drip a little bit. Actually, doesn't look that bad. I'm going to chase a little bit of it out with a toothbrush, just because I do see some silicone that's in there, and we want to make sure that we have the best seal possible with the new gasket. So I'm just going to use a regular toothbrush, kind of chase in there. I think that's it. Install the new cover. So just like other valve cover gaskets, you're going to want to make sure that it is oriented to line up, not flipped around. So you have these for the front cam. We'll go ahead and put those there. And then you have the spark plug holes. You're going to want to line up. We're doing this all kind of loose. We want to make sure that nothing's twisted. Nothing is you don't want to force anything. So we're going to line it up just a little bit loose. Make sure everything lines up pretty. Make sure we got the correct gasket. Everything looks great. So now we're going to start feeding it into the channels. And I'm going to start from the middle. I'm just kind of pressing down, not super hard. But one thing I like about this gasket, and I'm pretty sure it's an OEM, is it fits very well around the bolt holes. So you know you're getting a good secure fit around the parts that secure the valve cover to the head. Alright, so I'm just going to go in and make sure everything's pressed in. That one seems a little... little thick. Yes, everything's in there. So this is ready to be reinstalled. The first thing we need to do is install a silicone on the 6 parts that I showed earlier. And then we can place the valve cover back on. One thing you want to make sure is that where you're applying the silicone, you want to be free of oil, grease, so that the silicone itself will adhere to that section. I'm doing a fantastic job putting this on. It is heavy sarcasm. So basically I'm just putting a little bit on my index finger and trying to push it into the crevice that it needs to go. So when the valve cover squishes, it will seal that area. I'm not putting an excessive amount. You do not need a lot. And if there is extra, I'll wipe it off before it sets. So that looks like enough. Okay, that looks like a good amount, not too much. We're going to put our valve cover back on. Just going to lay it down. I'll kind of push it into place. And we're going to start getting our bolts threaded in loosely by hand. Make sure everything lines up. Okay, now that all the bolts are in the hole, we're going to go ahead and run them down pretty slowly. I'm going to do the center one first. And we're going to do the outer two in the middle. Now we're going to do these four and then the outer four. So I'm just snugging them up, putting about a 1/4 inch turn once it's snug. And this is just to compress the gasket in a uniform manner. Okay, now that everything is snug, we'll go back through, tighten it up in the same sequence just a little bit more, and then we will torque it. You can't tell, the middle bolts are now loose because the rest of it's been put down tighter. Because we are compressing the gasket. Okay, what I am seeing is it's between 43 and 78 inch-pounds. And if you divide by 12 to make foot-pounds, then it would be about basically 4 to 8 foot-pounds, which is not very much. So we're just gonna hand tighten it. I'm gonna get the middle bolt again and make sure that's tight. Just gonna put a little bit more gusto on it. And then just do the same with the rest of them. Then I'll go through until it's not loose anymore. All right, for the final sequence, I'm gonna go ahead and do it directly on top. And this is just a check to make sure it's tight. Okay, valve cover's back on. Now the next thing we need to do is reinstall our bracket for our ignition coil. I'm gonna get this lined up. Then I'm gonna hand thread the two 13mm bolts through it. I'm gonna drop the bolt immediately. Always nice to have a handy magnet. Not happy with you. I'll try the other side first. It might be easier. Much easier. You're not going to get that all the way tight, so you can wiggle the bracket around. This thing wants to fight me the entire way. There we go. I think I just wasn't holding my tongue the right way. Okay. So now that those are started, I'm going to finger thread them all the way. And then we will tighten it up with our ratchet. That is all tight. Last thing we need to do is reroute our hoses. Oh, oops. Seems I forgot that that bolt goes through that hose, so we're gonna remove that, reinstall it. And finally the 8mm. Now we're going to take our hose clamps, loosen this one, tighten those up. Tighten this one up. And last thing we need to do is install our spark plug wires. Alright, and if you're like me and you took a picture of the orientation that the wires go, you shouldn't have any trouble putting them back. So, what we're going to do is line them up by length, and then we'll find out which hole goes into what. So the longest one is for cylinder 1, and that goes in like so. Second longest one is cylinder 2. That goes like so. Third one is cylinder 3, and that goes on the very end. And the fourth one is very first plug, and that goes on cylinder 4. Like so. Basically exactly like it was routed before. Cool. So yeah, so the very last step, since we've gotten everything done, double check that you're not missing anything. I'm gonna go ahead and spray down. There's a little bit of a leak in the front. I'm gonna spray that. I'm gonna spray the exhaust manifold. They got a little bit of a residue on it. Spray that down, let that dry a little bit. And then yeah, we start the car and we just make sure that it runs right. No misfires, no leaks. We check for leaks later. That's it. So I hope everybody enjoyed this episode of Pasty-T Garage, where we replaced the valve cover gasket on the 1997 Miata. A little bit of differences between this Miata and maybe yours. This is a 1.8 liter, so the gasket will be different if you have a 1.6 or if you have a VVTi 1.8 liter, which was on the 2001 up, I believe. Those had a big gear in the front. They had a little piece that came off of the valve so that you could control the VVTi electronically. And this car has a catch can in the back where these hoses would go that are normally your PVC. But so yeah, so that's gonna do it for me today. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and hit that sub button, and we can go on this journey together. If you already subscribed, thank you so much. And yeah, leave a comment below, like the video if you liked it, and that's gonna do it for me. So we'll see you in the next video.